Welcome to Bible Time. This is the Tuesday edition, December 29th. We're counting down the days to the end of this year, 2020, and the beginning of 2021. And we've got some great Psalms lined up this week in our daily Bible reading that we're going to be doing here on Bible Time that I think you'll find really helpful, very encouraging as we end one year, start another year. They're going to give us some great encouragement and direction as we start this new year. Today we are in Psalm 18, and I hope you read it, and you read it carefully, and you read all 50 verses of it. And what you may have noticed, if you've been with us in Bible Time from the beginning, is that Psalm 18 is basically the same as 2 Samuel chapter 22. So you could cross-reference those and see the similarities. And what you see here is that David is praising God for the deliverance from all of his enemies. You see that in the inspired introduction there, right before verse 1, where he talks about how the Lord delivered him from the hand of all of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. So it's not just talking about Saul, it's all of his enemies, and he certainly had his enemies. He certainly had experienced God's deliverance from Saul, from the Philistines, from his own son Absalom, and he's praising God for his deliverance in all those ways. And what you see here in Psalm 18 is the dependent, trusting prayer life of David. He is one who is in the habit of looking to the Lord. He looks to the Lord at all times. He looks to the Lord in his praise and his prayers for deliverance, for blessing. He looks to the Lord in all these ways. And look at how he starts off just in the first few verses. He says, I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. David spent a lot of time out in the wilderness fleeing from his enemies, and these things that he's pointing out are things that would have been out in the wilderness, places that would have provided safety and security for him, rock, fortress, and the rest that he has listed here. They are all places that would be familiar to David as places where he found safety, but ultimately he recognized that his safety and security was found in the Lord. And if you read through verses 7 through 15, you just see the awe-inspiring power of God's deliverance as David paints these vivid pictures of God powerfully delivering him. Verse 7 says, Then the earth reeled and rocked. The foundations also of the mountains trembled and quaked because he was angry. And smoke went up from his nostrils, and on he goes, talking about the power of God to deliver him. And one thing just to take note of, I'm hoping that you're reading the psalm, you're getting a lot out of it. Just some things you might have questions about. Like you might read verse 20 and say, The Lord dealt with me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands he rewarded me. Well, what's he saying there? Well, what he's not saying is that he's sinless. He's not saying God delivered me because I'm sinless. No, he's not claiming any kind of sinless perfection for himself. But he is expressing his devotion to God, and he is referring to the integrity with which he walked with God. And not perfection, but there's a consistency, there's a direction to his walk with the Lord. And he counted on the Lord to provide refuge and safety for him. Verses 25 through 29, you'll note how David, I'll just read those verses, but going on from there to the end of the psalm, he gives all the honor to God. David fought. David was a mighty warrior, but he attributes all of his deliverance to God. He says, listen to this, because this goes along well with the sermon what we gave on Sunday. It says, with the merciful you show yourself merciful. With the blameless man you show yourself blameless. With the purified you show yourself pure. And with the crooked you make yourself seem tortuous. For you save a humble people, but the haughty eyes you bring down. That goes right along with our message from Sunday. For it is you who light my lamp. The Lord my God lightens my darkness. For by you I can run against a troop, and By my God, I can leap over a wall. So those are things David's doing, but he's recognizing that the power, the strength, the opportunity all comes from God, and that God helps the humble, those who humble themselves before him. And then what a great statement in verse 30. This God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord proves true. He is a shield for all those who take refuge in him. Those who will humble themselves, take refuge in him. He's a shield for them. His word, it always proves true. So those are just some things to take note of. You can read through it, but one little nugget to pull out of here at the very last verse, verse 50, says, great salvation he brings to his king and shows steadfast love to his anointed, to David and his offspring forever. David's writing this knowing that God has made a covenant with him that the anointed, David was anointed king, but the anointed, the Messiah, is coming through his descendants, through his offspring. So here's a little reference to the Messiah right at the end of the psalm here. And here's something to take note of. We haven't talked about this in a while, but God made promises. He made a promise to Abraham, a covenant with Abraham regarding his descendants, the people of Israel. And he made a covenant, he repeated that covenant with Isaac and Jacob. And then it was narrowed down to Judah was the tribe that God was going to bring the Messiah through, and particularly through David's line, he was going to bring it through. So there's a covenant with David as well. Now, what you see oftentimes in reading through the Old Testament is God being faithful to his promises. The people aren't being faithful, but he's being faithful to his promises, and he's preserving the people of Israel and the line of David through which the Messiah is going to come. And you can believe Satan was trying to attack that line every which way that he could, and trying to kill David as any way that he could. But God was faithful to preserve the people of Israel and to preserve the line of David so that the Messiah came. That's what we just celebrated, the Messiah coming into the world. He came into the world to save sinners just like you and me. What a great thing to keep in mind, God's preserving power. God delivers us from all of our enemies, and we're safe and secure in him. We'll see you tomorrow for more Bible time.